Hello and welcome to the BTSF for PokéSins Season 1, Episode 2, Pokemon Emergency. I am Gary and Reva. Like with Episode 1, this is actually a remake of an episode I made 10 years ago. This is being remade in July of 2023 and updates the video from the old CinemaSins style to the compound style I've been using for almost the entire run of the series. In BTSF's behind the scenes featurette, I explain sort of a bit more about my real thoughts on the video outside of the jokes I make in PokéSins, explain any jokes I feel need explanation, and just give any other thoughts that I have. For an episode 2 of the series, this is sort of an interesting one, because it continues straight on from episode 1. And there aren't many times in the series that a Pokemon needs to go to a Pokemon Center specifically. It does happen occasionally, but it sort of serves all right as a sort of a first drama of the series, and also has the introduction of Team Rocket, who are terribly done in this episode. It is very much the pilot thing where they don't quite know what they're doing with them in a character's first appearance, and they just sort of tweak it on the fly as they go. In this case, Jesse and James were a lot more dramatic and sort of got goofier as the episode itself went on. And I'm glad that they toned down Meowth after this, because he was a lot in this one. To address a couple of jokes that I feel might need a little bit of explanation or otherwise could be seen as contentious. First of all, the lipstick joke. As this is the first appearance of Jessie, this is the first appearance of this joke, and it will show up a lot throughout this series. And what this is, it's not so much a joke as it's pointing out that they forgot to add her lipstick. She does wear lipstick almost constantly, and in a few shots throughout a few shots throughout the series, they forget to add it. And sometimes, it might be too far away, but a lot of the time it should be visible, and it isn't. So when I give it a minus for lipstick, that is a continuity error that I'm pointing out. Just to be absolutely clear about that. Next is lip syncing. This one is quite contentious. Some people say, you can't complain about its lip syncing because it's done for the Japanese. I have seen it done well, and I'm sure I talk about this in past BTSFs. It's very hard to keep track of what I've said across 100 BTSFs. But anyway, I have seen lip syncing done well in various shows, frankly in this show sometimes. So that said, I don't punish it every time it deviates slightly. It doesn't need to be absolutely frame perfect. It's just when it is obviously completely different. Like when Misty says Pokeball and it's seven syllables or something like that. That's the only one I pick up in this one, but my baseline for whether I give it a minus for lip syncing is if it is obvious. I don't go looking for it, it's just if it stands out to me, that was obviously really bad, then I do. To be honest, it's sort of the same with continuity errors and stuff being off. What's the TV trope? Off-brand? No. Off-model. It's when something is off-model, where something's been miscolored or looks weird or whatever, that kind of thing. I only pick it up on it if I notice it. I don't go looking through the episode frame by frame looking for every single error. And the last one I'm going to mention, because it came up a lot this episode, is animals, real-world animals. And I'm fairly sure I talked about this in the BTSF for episode 1, but just to reiterate, real-world animals do not exist in the Pokemon world. They are referred to a lot early on in the series, and as the series goes on, this becomes less and less common, and I see this as very much another sort of pilot thing. Early on, they didn't know how much to talk about real-world animals in the same way as early on in Yu-Gi-Oh! They didn't know how much to stick to the rules of the bloody game. And as they go on, they think, we should probably do it more. And that's why real-world animal references reduce quite considerably. There were 10 in this one. And I think that's the most in any one episode. And as it goes on, they become less and less common. And you might be saying, but Meowth is the cat Pokemon, or Pikachu is the electric mouse Pokemon, therefore it is in the world. I see Pokedex entries as almost, they don't exist for the characters. They're referred to in the show, but they have no context. They don't mean anything to the characters because there are no mice. So why would an electric mouse help? It's like referring to Ponyta as a four-legged flarbel. It's like, what the hell? That doesn't mean anything. And it's, oh, well, a flarbel's an alien horse that has 7 legs. Why, to people on planets with flarbels, referring to Ponyta as a four-legged flarbel makes sense, but not to us. And in the same way, referring to Pikachu as an electric mouse makes sense to us, but it doesn't make sense in their world. And on a similar note, I can refer to real-world things like I can call Meowth a cat, I can call Pikachu a mouse, I can, refer to any of these things because they exist as creatures and as concepts in the real world, in the world from which I'm speaking, but they do not exist for the characters. Hope that makes sense. I know a lot of people still take issue with this. I've had the argument enough times that I'm sorry, but yeah, this is the way it is. Right, this is looking to be a long BTSF. I'm sticking with it. So, the next thing is, I wanted to talk a little bit about Ash's dad, because this is the only, I think, outright reference to him in the show. There might be a couple more, but it's referred to, like Delia says, that Ash is the apple of his dad's eye. I think she is outright lying to him. I think she knows that his dad doesn't care. And I think this is a thing that you see in like people who's had a parent run off, at least in shows. I don't know if this is a thing that real people do, but they say, "Oh yeah, your dad cares about you," because they don't want the child to feel abandoned. So she says this, even though she knows his dad has just completely abandoned them and is never coming back, because she doesn't want him to feel abandoned. And I have a theory about where his dad is. I don't think he's dead or anything. Because throughout the series, we see several children younger than Ash who bear a striking resemblance to him. And I think I call them out because I think the BTSF started by then. He's even mistaken for a few. And I reckon these people are his half-brothers, which suggests that his dad made his way across Kanto having children. And like Delia was just the first, which is probably, it might even be true that he is from Pallet Town. Because she says, oh, it took your dad four days to get there from here. And it could be that is actually true. Maybe they even knew each other as children, and that's why sort of Ash is his oldest child or whatever. I don't know, that's just pure speculation. No outtakes, but there is a bit of cut content. I did think about having a section of these videos which was sort of comparing the difference between this remake and like the legacy, the original. I decided not to do that, but I would like to, unless people want it, of course, let me know in the comments. But something that I did want to talk about in this were there are a couple of mine and that I cut quite late on, very late on really, which were things from the original. And the first one, the keyboard. Obviously, yeah, stuff like two nines, that is a thing, whatever. There is a hat on the keyboard, and I believe I called that out in the original as just weird, but I reckon that was a police button for calling the police. It was clearly a special keyboard, but I reckon it had a police button, and I reckon the electric symbol is for the backup generator, because it looks a bit like the thing that the backup generator runs on, the Pikachu one. The thing is, though, when you would need the backup generator to come on, the computer wouldn't be working, right? And the other one, which I cut very, very late on, was about the layout of the room changing. And I looked it over. I spent ages like going forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards on the video, on the episode, to work out if the room arrangement did change. And I don't think it did. Like, the computers are visible behind the desk. It's just really hard to tell with some of the angles, so I thought it did, but I've decided to come down on the side of the fence to say no, it did not. Anyway, that is all for this BTSF. I think this is one of the longest BTSFs I've ever done. These can be quite short or quite long, depending on what I have to say. They tend to be quite informal. I don't script them or anything. I just have like talking points so I can hit the things I want to hit, but otherwise it's just me sort of talking freely. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you later.